Good morning.
Hey, Miss Hannah.
Good morning. How are
Good
you
morning.
doing?
Doing pretty good.
I'm gonna try to share my screen because I did it the last time.
Hey, Kaylee.
Hello.
Morning.
Share. Okay, can y'all see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay,
Yep.
I gotta figure out how to get this into full screen mode so I can get it back. All right, so I have all of it here. Um, is this everyone? No, we're missing Jesse. So when he gets on, this is everything is completed, and if y'all want to just run through it real fast, we can, or look over it and then kind of like do the presentation because I have it recording right now. So when it's done, I'll just crop the video and share it however y'all want to do
I'm
it.
good. Whenever you guys are ready, we can knock it out.
I don't know where Jesse is, if he's on here. Oh, there he is. All right. Philip, do you want to kick us off and kind of, since you're doing the first slide?
Absolutely. I'll what we can do is I'll do the intro, talk a little bit about it, work into the question one, and then when I'm done, if you guys want to follow up each person, and
Yeah.
I think we should be able to hit the 15-minute minimum if you guys are good with it.
I think so. I have 15 slides, well, 16 total, but two of them is like the opening and the ending. So, if you want to open us up, kind of, like you said, talk about it. And then at the top of the corner, you'll see that each one is labeled by like one, two, three, four, five. That is based on the question that you had. And then your name will be down at the bottom so you know whose question it is. So whenever you see your name pop up, then it's like on to you.
What I'll if you guys are good with it, I've kind of got my report in front of me. I'll use that for notes. If you'll follow along with on my first couple slides, and then um, I can get us quite a few minutes probably just doing that. And then whoever's got question two, you can roll right into their slides, and we can go from there if y'all are good with
Yeah, sounds good.
it. Is everybody good to start?
Yes, I'm good. If everybody's ready, I say let's hit it.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is Philip Clark. I'm representing Clark, Montgomery, Pate, Sanderson, Williams. We've been tasked with kind of doing a case analysis on the um, private military companies. We're going to kind of touch on a few things um, just as far as the utility of them, how they stack up with, you know, different countries' militaries, what's the pros and cons of using them versus your conventional military situations. We'll go over some factors that are kind of pushing them, why they're growing, why they're seem to be increasing with each passing year. Maybe some of the United States' participation and what where they rank as far as global usage. Um, and maybe even touch on some of the ethics, the decision making behind if it's good or bad to call in private contractors in scenarios where countries would have military based conflict. Um, but with that being said, we're going to jump right in, kind of handle these case questions. The first one from an institution based view, what is behind the rise of this particular industry? You're going to see there is a multitude of facts, probably none bigger than cost. And these guys can they can come in at a little lower percentage. They can bid on these contracts probably lower than a lot of countries' militaries. Um, and in this world, in this day and age, we kind of live in an outsourcing age where countries, especially the United States, they can see the positives in what bringing these private sector agencies to handle these military contracts and responsibilities. The cost is going to play a huge role. From a financial aspect, these companies they can kind of get lower. They can provide security, protection, intelligence, keeping the peace. There's also not just a monetary positive. There's kind of a political cost. I don't know what other kind of word you could use when using these private military contracts. And what that basically does is it's not devaluing life, but in the public's eye, when it comes to the military versus the private casualties, sometimes the governments would want to keep that military cost to a minimum. Um, those deaths are going to be probably a little more closely monitored when it comes to the public. That they tend to make bigger headlines, I guess you would say. There's also a need uh, for specialized and flexible military level capabilities that when it comes to different regions on the planet that's got conflict, the PMCs have a tendency to be able to mobilize their forces maybe a bit quicker and with less interference into these locations. Their level of communication can be quicker, less bureaucracy they come in contact with. They can kind of get in and get the job done. That's their image. That's what countries are looking at when they're bringing them in. Uh, when it comes to the U.S. alone, the U.S.'s participation, they have a substantial share in the global sector. I think they probably make up about 40% just our country alone when stacking them up in the global market. You've got multiple corporations have kind of jumped on board. Probably the biggest is the old Blackwater firm that's changed their name. Uh, Academia is what they kind of had to change it to. They got some negative press in the past. They've had a couple incidents where they made a couple of errors, and I think that led to a name change. Some of the other big ones are Triple Canopy, Titan Corporation, DynCorp. Uh, probably probably those firms make up around 60% of just our country's uh, total private military contracts. Uh, the cost is the cost is pretty good for them too. They want to lean toward employing the private sector on that. When you break down this cost, the expense totals, they can outfit their own troops. They can quicker supply the training that's needed for these specialized tasks. The logistics price tag, uh, they can kind of get up there when you bring in the conventional military. Um, Taxpayers see that. That's going to be your that's going to be one of your pros of employing these private contractors. The military takes note of that. Sometimes it's easier to bring those guys in. Um, the utilities of the private sector also has a technological aspect where cybersecurity sector, drone operations, they get to bring in specialized services where they need aerial surveillance, that kind of stuff. We're seeing more and more in the private sector. They have the toys to kind of go in, uh, run their surveillance from a distance, see what needs to be done, and can send the ground troops in, after that. Their level of efficiency when it comes to planning and preparation for these military endeavors, uh, they can increase mobilization a lot more quicker. Their engagement times come at a faster pace. These are the areas of expertise where you're going to they kind of stick out. Um, some experts even believe that these military companies could possibly be the next level. They could be the future of the military services through their legal corporate structure that they operate. They have loopholes and guidelines they can kind of dodge around where our military can't. Um, their hierarchy uh, of when bureaucracy steps in, um, their decision-making process is a little quicker. It allows them to initiate new regulations at a much faster branch, at a much faster pace than the military branches, I guess you would say. That's it, guys.
Okay. So, what is the national military? Generally speaking, the military is a group of trained individuals whose focus and job is the protection of another group. And in this case, our national military's job is to protect us, our country, our cities, states, nations, etc. And there are various branches of the military that are specialized for certain situations. There's the military, the Navy, etc. And in comparison, a private military is basically this, but instead of being focused on protecting the whole nation, it's sort of sort of like a mercenary service where you hire them for a specific job, and oftentimes the national military will hire members of a private military to bolster their forces. Now, from a resource standpoint, how can a private military company outperform a national military? Well, there are three different facets of this that they abide by that they can use to outperform. That's money, manpower, and no mandates. Now, the first one, money, is that private military companies are often, like I said, they're able to offer services that national militaries need, which is more soldiers, more weapons, etc. And this is where they get their primary income, is offering their services to larger entities. And it'll often be things that national militaries have a harder time procuring on their own. Point two, manpower. Something that a lot of people don't know is that a lot of the national military's numbers, their parts of their armies are composed of private military companies. A lot of times a national military will shell out money to bolster their forces with members of a private military company in order to have, more people on the line. And finally, no mandates is that obviously as a private company, private military companies are not required to abide by the rules and regulations of a national military often will, which means they have more leeway and more wiggle room for what kind of services they can provide and what kind of things they can offer. Now, how private military companies outperform others is by expanding their services and diversifying. Now, the phrase goes, money talks. So a private military company is above all else a business, and the point is to make money, which is their primary concern. So as long as a private company has resources and services to offer, it'll basically go for, it'll go for wherever there needs to be a buyer. If you need weapons, they'll offer them. If you need manpower, they'll offer them. If you need a temporary base or a temporary place for a national army to stay, that'll offer it. It'll basically offer anything that a national military will need, which is how they make a lot of their money.
So my question is dealing with industry associations and self-regulation. And so in the question it asks, how do industry associations such as these two listed, why are they interested in self-regulation? So I wanted to touch on these and show what they represented. So IPOA is comprised of 38 private military companies that kind of make up the peace and stability. And then the BAPSC is the leading British industry association in England. And so there's three main types of PMCs. You have your military provider firms, your military provider funds, and your military support firms. So the Arms Export Control Act is kind of one thing that leads into self-regulation. And in the United States, we're not technically a self-regulated nation. We actually follow under this act, which it was established in 1970. And so this act is going to give the President of the United States power over the control of the importing and exporting. While this does not signify self-regulation, it does play a huge part into why self-regulation is warranted. And then why are industry associations so interested in self-regulation? Self-regulation is a form of self-governance. Self-regulatory efforts cause an industry's goods or service to become more useful, safe, reliable, and consumer demand for the product increases efficiency. And so for the United States, we're considered self-regulated. Here in the states, the PMCs are combined of agreements, domestic laws, and guided contracts. The main goal for self-regulation is to provide a sense of reliability, professionalism, and a higher quality of service.
Okay, so my question was, as an investor, would you consider buying stock of a PMC such as DynCorp? Why or why not? And also it wants to know, would I have any ethical reservations? So when you think about the stocks of these PMCs, you have to evaluate the financial risks that are involved. Financially, the company they list in this question was DynCorp. It depends heavily on the government contracts because it makes it very vulnerable for the federal spending. And they did lose some contracts, about 82 billion Army the LOGCAP V deal, and it significantly impacted their revenue. And it says high competition, rivals like KBR and Fluor compete for contracts. So the industry is highly competitive with these companies, and they're all competing for the same contracts. Additionally, the high operational costs and the legal challenges can add to the financial uncertainty. And with this particular company, DynCorp, and the acquisition by Amentum in 2020. But beyond those financial risks, we think about the ethical concerns that are involved here. One major issue that we can talk about is accountability. These companies can operate in war zones with little to no oversight. Next slide.
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah, so they can operate with little to no oversight. There have been reports of human violations, excessive force, and even unethical behavior, which can damage their reputation. And the fact that we've been talking about this or any type of ethical decision, I think that's enough to just kind of, not. I think that's enough to have a conflict of interest, is what I'm saying. So given all these challenges that they have, PMCs and especially DynCorp, I personally would not invest my money into it. I think you would just have to consider all of the risks. And if you did do it, you have to make sure you hold them up to some strict ethical guidelines.
Okay, so I had question number 5, and it was on ethics and kind of playing off what Jasmine said. My question was, as an oil company executive setting up operations in a politically unstable but oil-rich country, would you consider hiring PMC contractors as security personnel? And while there are very many benefits of hiring private military companies, such as them being able to offer specialized security in many regions, they're cost effective and they have a quick response, there are a lot of ethical problems with them as well. So my answer was kind of a simple no. If I were that executive, I would not choose to hire a PMC company. The reasoning behind this is rather simple. There's too much conflict with national security and public trust. Let's see. Key historical events reveal the complexities surrounding military contracting, emphasizing the importance of ethics and maintaining trust and integrity within the defense sector. And it's also known that private military companies can violently destabilize a country, rendering it helpless and ineffective. There's really no way to ensure that a PMC could adhere to international human rights without a legally binding instrument such as a domestic regulatory legislation being put into effect as an effort to stop violations committed by non-state military personnel. And it's also hard to know if these contractors are keeping the oil lane secure. It's extremely essential to understand ethics in military contracting so that resources are utilized correctly and also transparently. Are we on the next slide already?
Yes.
Okay. So can we go to the next one?
Yeah.
I think I just said all this. Perfect. Thank you. So contrary to the state military, private military companies typically operate with less to little oversight. So the question becomes, who is going to hold these contractors accountable should wrongdoings occur, and who would they report to for disciplinary actions? Conflicts of interest are easy to rear their heads when contractors have prior ties with other diplomatic officials or when their personal interests begin to be compromised. And in that event, you just can't risk biased decision-making or arguments. And failure to manage these conflicts not only erodes public trust, but also risks compromising national security by allowing potentially unqualified individuals to influence decisions. It's hard to trust the contractors when you're unsure if they are bribing officials for favorable terms for their own game. And there's also a big chance that lawsuits, fraud, embezzlement, or collusion could occur within the PMC contractors as well. So with oil being such a valuable necessity and it being on politically unstable grounds, I do not think that it would be worth the risk of being guarded by contractors rather than national military. I believe a better approach to guarding and securing would involve using state military to ensure heavy oversight and to see that everything is working how it should. I think that's the end.
And that is all that we have for our presentation. Does anybody have any comments or anything else they want to add to it? No? Okay.
All good.
All right. Well, we thank you for watching our presentation, and I want to say thank you to everybody who contributed. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Y'all were great to work with.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop sharing, and I think I'm gonna end it here. I'm gonna post the video and then I'll send it to you guys first before I do post it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.